Coming at you with hard-hitting analysis of every fight on every UFC card. This is your source for everything you need to know for your daily fantasy MMA lineup. This is Daily Fantasy Knockout. Now here's your host, Drew Dean.
What's up, fam? We're back at it again. UFC 94, Poirier versus Johnson, Daily Fantasy Knockout. I'm podcasting remotely from a friend's house. Shout out to him. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Stonewall, Josh Stillman. How are we?
I'm doing good. I just screwed that up a little bit. Forgot to turn my camera off, so you just got to look at my mug while the music went. Real quick shout out to got to do this last couple episodes. Our boy Matthew Lapes. You can find him at soundcloud.com/do-less. I'm stupid and I thought do less was doles with an extra S. Because I'm dumb. I didn't understand what he was trying to say with his SoundCloud, tag or whatever. But soundcloud.com/do-less. He's got a lot of good stuff up there. Our boy from college, Matt Lapes, got some production going on, and he's pretty good at it. Check that out. Big thanks for the new and improved intro. So let's get into this because we're super late getting to this. If you're listening to this, then thank you so much for. We're recording this Friday evening. Evening. So you're super dedicated if you're hearing us right now. So I appreciate you. We appreciate you. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Some technology issues, some work-related delays. So try to keep pumping these out, but it's going to be hard to get it done by Wednesday every week.
Yeah, you got it, man. Let's dive right in. As always, you guys know the deal. We go over the fights, give you our picks for winners, talk about DraftKings, Las Vegas odds. We don't look at those beforehand. We look at those live. And then hopefully we give you some insights. You guys can make some solid GPP and cash lineups for the fight card on Saturday. So just a warning, I might have to dip out a few minutes early here. I do have a work obligation tonight. So anyway, let's dive right in. Alejandro Perez versus Albert Morales. It's on you.
All right, so Morales is making his UFC debut. He's coming off of the Looking for a Fight series. One of the more recent episodes, he's 6-0. He's got big power in his hands, and he's got like a dangerous submission game. He's very, very active with submissions from guard. His wrestling seems pretty decent, and he's just like really active, really kind of dangerous. From kind of all positions, but he is kind of new in the game and experienced, and he's taking on Alejandro Perez, who won one of the seasons of Tough Latin America as a bantamweight or a featherweight, and is already like 3-1 in the UFC. So there's going to be kind of a big experience gap, a big like UFC experience gap, and so this one is sort of tough to pick. I think Morales probably has the higher ceiling here, so this makes it sort of a tough pick for me. But I'm gonna go with Perez because he's already beaten like several UFC caliber dudes, and Morales has not yet. I think that Perez's like experience and his like just overall game. I think Morales is good when he can like settle into a specific phase, like if he can like bomb on dudes against the fence, or if he can get into a straight grappling match, then he's going to have the advantage. But I think Perez is more of like an all-rounder who can do a little bit in all phases and like do the things in between phases, and I think that's going to like help carry him to a decision here. But I don't feel super confident about it really either way, to be honest. But I think Perez here by decision.
All right, good stuff. Las Vegas has Morales at +100 and Perez is -130. DraftKings, Perez is 11,000 and Morales is 8,400. Wow.
Well, that's bananas. I don't think Perez is worth 11,000. It's tough for me to see him like getting an early finish here. I think if anyone's going to get an early finish, I think it'd be Morales. I mean, he's got big time power and some nasty submissions. I think Perez. I'm picking Perez because I think that he can fight off the submissions. He just fought Ian Entwistle, who's a leg lock specialist and just dives on leg locks from the get-go. And his fights he either gets knocked out going for a leg lock or he gets it. And Perez was able to fight out of some like nasty positions and ended up getting the knockout there against Entwistle. But he's facing another dude who's got a nasty ground game, nasty guard. I think the fight's a lot closer. Obviously, I mean, just based on the odds alone, Morales is a value there. So I think he'd be a good GBP play. He's super cheap at like basically even odds. I don't know that you can really trust either guy in cash, but Morales is super cheap for the odds. So maybe you want to throw him in there for like dirt cheap if there's a lot more expensive dudes on the card that you need to fit in.
All right, love it. Let's move on. Eric Montano versus Randy Brown. I'll dive into this one. I'm going with Brown in this fight. He is an elite. Well, I wouldn't say elite, but he's an exciting striker. He has a crazy striking reach advantage. He fights long. He throws from everywhere. It's his bread and butter. He's got some pop behind his strikes. He is still a bit raw overall, but I like him in this fight. On the ground game side of things, he doesn't want to be on the ground. Michael Graves took him down to the ground quite often in their fight. He showed some decent ground defense, but he was uncomfortable on his back. The only good thing that I saw out of it was he uses his length to defend and makes it hard for opponents in top control to hammer down ground and pound and things of that nature. Taking a look at Montano, however the hell you say it, he's an orthodox fighter. He uses long legs, side kicks, and oblique kicks to keep his opponents at range. He's also a raw talent. I haven't really seen much finishing potential out of him. He just, I just didn't see too much power in his punches. He likes to take the fight up against the cage. He's normally bigger than his opponents, but I don't think that's the case against Randy Brown in this fight. He's a very confident wrestler. He's suffocating in top control. Although all of his losses have come by submission, he's questionable off of his back, and he tends to leave his guard open quite a bit to passes and side control, and that's not a good thing to do. So I'm going with Randy Brown in this because if I recall, Randy Brown was on Dana White's reality show. Was he on Looking for a Fight?
Yep.
I see a lot of talent in Brown, future talent, and I think the UFC wants to make him a marketable star. I'm going to take Brown to finish this fight. I think he uses his length to finish the fight on the feet. I wouldn't even be surprised if he got it down and submitted Montano. But I'm going to go with Randy Brown via finish in the second or third round.
Okay, good stuff. Yeah, I tend to agree with you on your analysis there. Let's see the odds if they will come up for me. So, wow, Brown is a minus 470 favorite against the Montano, who comes back at plus 375. And on DraftKings, what do we got? Come on, page, get open. Here we go. Okay, so Brown comes in at 10,900 and Montano comes in at 8,500. So close to Perez and Morales prices, but you're getting a much heavier favorite in Brown for the price. So for 10-9, what do you think?
I like him.
All formats, given how much of a favorite he is, or
yeah,
I
really do. I'm pretty high on Brown in this fight, and I'm going to pay up for him.
Okay. Definitive answer there. So cash GBP play, Randy Brown looking for a fight, dude. Hopefully, for our sake,
looking for a knockout.
Yeah. Hopefully he fares better than Morales does. But so who we got next? Moving on.
I don't even know how to say this. Jose Quinones?
Sure.
And Joey Gomez.
All right, so I was really high on Joey Gomez coming into his UFC debut against Rob Font, and he disappointed in spectacular fashion. The tape that I saw on Gomez pre-UFC was that he is long and lanky for a bantamweight, throws really, really hard straight punches. What else? When he's being taken down, or like when foes are trying to take him down, he throws like the really, really hard elbows. He uses his length, his leverage to throw really hard elbows, a la Travis Brown, and he's got really, really hard ground and pound. And he's aggressive from his back, but he was super tentative in his fight with Font. I don't know if it was the lights or Font's kicks or the threat of Font's wrestling that like really kind of made Gomez gun shy, but he was very disappointing. I was high on him, and he just looked bad. And Font, who like I wasn't super impressed with going into that fight, but has like looked very good since then. Turns out Font's a pretty like high quality prospect, and he just kind of ran over Gomez. So he takes on Quinones, who actually lost to another dude on this card. What is his name? Drawing a blank. This always happens. Gabriel Benitez. Gabriel Benitez, we'll talk about in a minute. Gabriel Benitez beat Jose Quinones in the final for Tough Latin America. So Quinones is like really, really awkward. Stand-up, switches stances a lot. Since losing, he got a first-round rear naked choke finish on his follow-up opponent. But he's very, very awkward. But he doesn't like being pressured. He's super insanely aggressive. There was a point in his fight with Benitez where he was just like literally sprinting after Benitez. Like he thought he had Benitez hurt, and he just like literally ran after him. It was, I mean, you can't really throw much offense when you're sprinting, but that's what he was doing. So I don't know. I don't know about him, but Gomez was pretty disappointing, so I'm going to kind of go the other way this time. Maybe Gomez was feasting on like lower level competition, but Quinones did show some pretty slick boxing skills, and I think his awkwardness and the threat of his ground game is going to keep Gomez off balance, and so I like Quinones to take a decision. But like I said, Gomez just killed people prior to coming to the UFC. He hits very, very hard, and if he is a little bit more comfortable now in his second UFC fight, he could tune up Quinones. So I'm picking Quinones, but a tough Latin America vet, but it's with some hesitation there.
All right, Quinones comes in at plus 135, and Gomez is minus 165. Looking at DraftKings, Quinones is 10,500, and Gomez is 8,900.
Okay, wait a second.
That's strange. They have it flipped. They have Quinones priced as the favorite.
That's what you said. Okay, well, there you go. So Gomez has some serious value just straight up, like for the odds. And again, this is another like the opener. I think this is kind of a close fight, but you're getting a big time discount on one guy and you're not on the other. So yeah, I mean, I prefer Gomez as the play here. Like I said, I think he's probably more of a GPP play. I don't think you can really trust him in cash, despite like the super great value that you're getting for him, just because of how awful he looked last time out. I think he's facing like maybe not as good of a fighter as Font, obviously, in Quinones, but one who could maybe make him just as gun shy. So I think Gomez is a GPP play for me. I don't know that I could pay up 10-5 for Quinones.
All right, I love it. Let's move on. Antonio Carlos Jr. versus Leonardo Augusto Leleco.
It's mine again?
Yep.
This one was yours, but okay. All right.
Oh, was it?
No, I don't know. It doesn't matter. I got this one. All right, so Carlos Jr., Shoeface, maybe one of the best nicknames in the UFC, was last seen getting punched out by old man strength Dan Kelly in Australia. You remember that fight?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that. I think Junior was my lock of the night that night. He was the biggest or second biggest favorite on the card against a less athletic, less decorated grappler, worse striker. Should have had the advantage pretty much everywhere, but just like after winning the first couple rounds, ended up getting knocked out because he couldn't really get the judoka Kelly to the ground consistently enough. So he just kind of got kind of embarrassed. But he's taking on Guimarães, and again, I think he's just got more skills than Guimarães does. Guimarães fought our friend of the podcast, Anthony Lionheart-Smith, at UFC Pittsburgh in February, the card that we attended. And Guimarães did come on strong and threaten Smith late, but I don't know. He's a middleweight, and as such, he's limited in a lot of ways. I think he's got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but he's going up against a like world champion level guy in Junior, who's an elite grappler. So Guimaraes is going to have a little bit of a disadvantage there. Guimaraes' striking is also kind of limited to just like winging haymakers, and Junior is, I think, more athletic. Not necessarily more durable, but just slicker and cleaner, and is going to do a better job of preserving his gas tank. So I like Junior here to get a stoppage in like maybe the third round. I think that eventually he can, as Guimaraes' gas tank depletes, Junior is going to either take him down and work him over on the ground for a TKO or submission.
All right. Who did you pick? My microphone went out.
Junior. Carlos Jr.
All right, let's take a look at Las Vegas, if they would show it. There he is. Junior comes in at -260, and Augusto comes in at +200 on DraftKings. Junior, this is ridiculous. Junior is 9,900 and Augusto is 9,500.
Wow, yeah, this pricing is insane today, or this week, I should say. Yeah. So again, I mean, I think the problem we're going to run into is that like there are guys on here who are such massive values that we're just going to kind of completely stay away from the other side of that. But in a lot of these cases, we're talking about like close fights that have a decent chance of finishing, like the Gomez-Quinones fight or the Perez-Morales fight. So I think that you just with a caveat that like we're probably focusing on the guy who is the massive value, obviously, but if we're talking about a close fight that either guy has finishing potential, you should probably have like at least limited exposure to the dude who's overpriced, just because they can they're just as likely to get the finish as the other guy if it's a really close fight. So anyway, with that being said, Junior is a heavy favorite, and he's not priced like one at 9,900, so he's a dude who I think you can play in almost any form. I would definitely consider him in cash. I don't know that I'll necessarily play him. We'll see how the rest of the card stacks out, but definitely in GBPs. Let's see what the odds to finish are here, but they're pretty good. Yeah, over 1.5 rounds is at -135. So this fight is apparently likely to go to the get a finish.
All right, let's move on to our next fight of the evening. Augusto Montano versus Bilal Muhammad. This one's me, and I just have this feeling I'm going with Montano in this fight, and I think he could finish. He's coming off a 1-year suspension for testosterone metabolites against Cathal Penryn, but he's huge for the weight class. He's a really crafty, explosive striker. He has excellent angles. He's really light on his feet. He always comes out aggressive. He was a little hesitant against Penryn because Penryn is huge as well. But he has a ton of movement. He's real sneaky in his attacks. The past 2 fights he's fought, he has looked fairly stiff. But they've both been in his hometown of Mexico. And I really think he had, some fighting jitters. Like I said, he's huge for his weight class. He's a crafty, explosive striker on the feet. Finishes a whole bunch of his fights in the first round. Yeah, and I really like him in this fight. Looking at Muhammad, he's an orthodox fighter. He throws leg kicks, body kicks. He has decent lateral movement. He does seem a bit slow when he moves around. It's not so much plodding around, but he's not the quickest. He has a solid counter jab. He maintains a solid output. Mixes his head around, head moving around a lot, and but his gas tank is questionable. So, and I don't think he's as big as Montano. I'd have to double check on that. His wrestling, he has good takedown defense. He's good timing on his reactive shots. In grappling, he looks to advance. He likes to look for submissions quite a bit. Even though he's not the biggest threat with submissions, he is a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. He shows good control and maintains position, but he really doesn't do much damage. So with that being said, I'm going to go with Montano to finish the fight. I see him storming and getting in Muhammad's face early and often in the fight. Muhammad does have one hell of a chin. He was rocked by Alan Jouban a bunch of times. But I like Montano in this fight. I'm feeling it. He should be a lot looser in this fight. He should have a solid game plan. He's not fighting in his hometown, so he has no jitters, no excuses. Could be totally off on this, but I like Montano in this fight.
All right, I'll give the odds real quick and the price before I kind of chime in a little bit. Vegas and I do not agree with you here. Bilal Muhammad is a -470 favorite. And
Yikes.
Montano comes back as +375. On DraftKings, Muhammad is only 10,200 and Montano is 9,200. Yeah, so, I mean, I say this with the caveat that I did not watch tape on Montano in preparation for this, but I did watch tape on Muhammad for his fight with Jouban and watched his fight with Jouban and was very, very impressed with him. He beat the brakes off of, American Top Team guy, former WSOF champion, Steve Carl. Beat the brakes off of Steve Carl for 4 rounds before getting the stoppage. Got smashed on by Alan Jouban for 2 rounds. Somehow survived and almost put Jouban away in the 3rd round of their fight because he just kept coming and coming and coming. And as Jouban gassed, Muhammad just stayed in his face and just kept working. And he's dangerous all the time. So I don't know. I admit I don't know Montano and can't really speak to his ability, but I was very impressed with Muhammad. So I would just pick him just based on that. So, but anyway, going off of the prices here, because that's kind of the point of this podcast, Muhammad is 10,200 and Montano is 9,200. So given the values and given your opinions, where do you sort of think they stack up in plays?
Montano in GPPs. Sign me up.
Okay.
I'm going with it. I'm riding with it. I got that feeling.
Okay. Fair enough. I guess for me, I would be down with Muhammad in either case, but that's just my opinion based off of what I remember seeing from him in either format, I should say. But maybe more of a GPP play because I don't want to just straight up disrespect you like that and put in Muhammad in my cash lineup. But we'll see how things shake out, I guess. What's next on the docket?
Gabriel Benitez versus Sam Sicilia.
Excuse me. All right, so I think this is a let me turn a light on here. It's getting kind of dark. Hold up. Sorry. All right, cool. This is a GPP play for me. Either way, I think either guy could finish. Benitez kicks like a mule, super hard. He's got kind of suspect defense. He's a southpaw, and he goes to the body and the legs a lot, and really wears on guys with those techniques. He's got power in his hands as well. He's taking on Cecilia, who is short, stocky, very, very strong, and throws bombs with his right hand, and that's sort of his the main part of his game. Wings on these haymakers, and so I'm picking Cecilia to win by stoppage in the 2nd or 3rd round because I think that he's going to be able to catch Benitez's chin, and I don't think it's going to take more than one to really. Benitez really lunges in and leaves himself exposed at times, and so I think that Cecilia's going to catch him. But I definitely think that this fight could finish in either way. Benitez either with strikes or with submissions. He loves the guillotine and will jump on it all the time, and his height advantage over Cecilia could make him more, encourage him to go for it because Cecilia's neck will kind of be right there if they're in the clinch. He will sometimes go for it in kind of ill-advised fashion. He just keeps going for it and going for it and going for it. That's what he did in his fight with Quinones. He just kept going for the guillotine. I think it was fight with Quinones, but in any case, he's also a slick grappler. Is Benitez? I think Benitez is a more skilled fighter here, but I like Cecilia to find his chin before he gets put away. So give me Cecilia by knockout.
All right, Las Vegas. Let's see what they have to say. Celia is minus 155. Benitez is plus 125. DraftKings, Celia is 11-2, and Gabriel is 8,200.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, yeah, at that price, it's definitely a GPP play for Celia. You can't trust him in cash, I don't think, at all. But he's got that big power. You could sprinkle him into your lineups because he's capable of the finish, but you can't have a ton of exposure to him for that price. It's just he might not finish early, and he might himself get finished. The odds are pretty close. He's on a very good value. So Benitez is a great GPP play. Again, there's probably better cash options than him, despite like the value that you're getting. These prices are just bananas. I can't believe it. But so yeah, that's sort of my take. Give me Benitez and GPPs here.
All right, let's move on to the main card. Chaz Skelly versus Maximo Blanco. I think this has the potential to be a pretty fun fight. I'm going to go with Skelly, though, and here's why. He works his left jab well to keep his opponent at bay. He's a really accurate puncher, especially counterpunching. He's an accurate counterpuncher, but at the same time, he's sloppy. He gets tired. Both of these guys have really questionable gas tanks. His striking gets a little sloppy when he's tired. He tends to reach a little bit on his punches. Looking at his ground game, he's a really good grappler. He's tenacious. He's good at maintaining position. He's suffocating on the back, even as like guys try to stand up. He's an NAIA All-American wrestler, so that's where he likes to take the fight. He threatens with leg locks to reverse from the bottom. He's very dangerous with submissions off of his back. Comfortable on the ground. Looking at Blanco, he trains out of Yoshida Dojo in Japan. This guy's pretty athletic. He's extremely aggressive, especially early on in fights. He basically, like you discussed earlier, runs out of his corner and tries to blitz people in the first round. And historically in his fight, this causes him to gas and slow down significantly. He still has a decent output when he's tired, but his hands become lower and he slows down, becomes more plodding. He's a former Venezuelan national champion in wrestling, so he uses his wrestling for a change of pace to take down his opponents. He's not afraid of getting taken down, so he tends to get wild up on the feet. So with that being said, these two guys have really questionable gas tanks, so it could go either way, but I'm going to go with Skelly in this fight. I think Blanco rushes in. He fought Luke Sanders, or I forget his name, something Sanders. And he kept rushing in, and Sanders just kept picking him apart with that counter punch and eventually dropped him and choked him out. So I see a similar fight, or a similar outcome in this fight, assuming Skelly doesn't completely gas. I like Skelly to finish the fight in the second or the third round.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you there. Blanco is just completely unreliable, and Skelly is pretty reliable in his approach. Blanco is just crazy. So here we go. On the odds, Skelly is a minus 190 favorite, and Blanco comes back as plus 165 as the underdog. And on DraftKings, Kelly, this is more reasonable pricing. Skelly is 10,300, and Blanco is 9,100. So Skelly, worth it in GBP piece for you at 10-3?
Yeah, I think so. I think he gets the finish, and 10-3, that's manageable. I like him in cash too.
Okay. Yeah, how big of a favorite was he? Almost 2-1. Okay. Cool.
All right, let's move on to the next fight. My dude, Chris Wade versus Islam Makhachev.
Yeah, nice. Nicely done on the pronunciation there.
Thank you, sir. If you guys follow the show at all, you guys know I'm a pretty big mark for Chris Wade.
Okay, so explain to me what, again, because I forget even. Why do you love Wade so much? Because
I just think he's a badass. I like him. He just goes and goes and goes, and he's a little – I just like him. I don't know why. I just like him. Kind of like how you like Joe Lozon.
Joe Lozon is the dude. Everyone loves Joe Lozon. Not everyone loves Chris Wade. I mean, he's not – whatever. I mean, to each his own, I guess. Yeah, so he goes and goes and goes, and he's all about, what, pushing the pace, and that's why you like him?
Yeah. I don't know why. I just like him. Get off my back. Anyway.
Sorry.
No, I'm just messing. Tough call here, but with hesitation, I'm going to pick Wade in this fight. See, now I'm second guessing myself. Anyway, Chris Wade, he averages 2.5 strikes per minute, which isn't very good, but he's recently changed up his striking regimen, drilling advanced striking combinations against moving/countering targets with Dennis Bermudez. Calls himself an orthodox fighter, but he likes to switch up his stance quite a bit. Haven't seen too much of his stand-up game because he likes to take things to the ground and grind up against the fence. His striking is a concern. He was outpointed and stunned pretty good against Christos Giagos. At the time, though, he stayed calm and he relies on his wrestling to regain composure. Heavy wrestling attack, averages just under 5 takedowns. Typical wrestler, wears on his opponents, has some awesome judo throws, really good control and top control, super athletic, stifling in the clinch, has a great job of wearing down his opponent, doesn't seem to let up, and his gas tank is endless. In his most recent fight with Khabibulov, he struggled with the Russian wrestling, I guess you could call it. Or what is it? Yeah. Sambo-based wrestling that they have. And Makhachev is a Russian fighter. He has a strong Sambo wrestling background. American fighters with grappling backgrounds tend to have trouble with that because they're not used to that style of wrestling. This matchup has caused Wade problems in the past. But I think Wade is going to learn from that and make some tweaks to his game and eke out this decision. Makhachev is a southpaw. He has a big overhand left. He only throws 1 or 2 punches at a time. Decent power, good counters. Doesn't like to move his head a lot as he rushes forward, so that could leave a window for a solid counterpunch from Wade. He has really strong judo throws, nasty, dirty boxing up against the cage. He's quality on the ground. Half of his wins are by submission. He's very good at finding the back, and he uses a lot of accurate, pinpointed, strong strikes to soften up his opponent as distractions and set up submissions. But I'm going to go with my boy Wade on this one via decision. Like I said, I think he tweaks his game plan and handles the Sambo-based wrestling and grinds out a decision victory.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with that, but you got to have that caveat in there that he is facing a fighter similar to one that he just really struggled with. So
yeah, and I said with great hesitation, I wouldn't be shocked, but I think Wade is with a good camp, and he's going to make the necessary adjustments to handle that in this fight. So,
word.
Could go either way.
Okay. So Makhachev is a slight favorite at -120, and Wade comes back as +110 underdog. On DraftKings, the price is pretty much mirrored that. Makhachev is at 9,800 and Wade is at 9,600. With this possibly being such a grappling-heavy affair, is this one you probably just want to stay away from altogether? You're not getting a ton of value really on either guy. So what do you think about that?
Fade, 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 folks. It's going to be a low-output grappling affair. I'm probably not touching it in any format.
Okay, fair enough. Easy enough there.
All right.
On the docket.
Rowan Carnero versus Kenny Robertson. Was this me?
No, this is me.
Word.
Okay, so Carnero was another dude that we saw at UFC Pittsburgh. We were sort of high on him coming in because he was coming off of re-entering the UFC debut against Mark Munoz and utterly dominating him, getting him to the ground easily, taking his back and choking him out. And then he fought the surging Derek Brunson, who's also on this card, and got utterly decimated. And now he gets a completely, kind of a different fight here in Kenny Robertson. So Carnero is a jiu-jitsu guy primarily. He can hit hard because he's a former middleweight, dropping down to welterweight. Has kind of big power in his punches, but he's not comfortable getting pressured. We saw that in the Brunson fight, and he was just at a power and athletic disadvantage against Brunson. I don't think that'll necessarily be the case here against Robertson, but Kenny Robertson, name right there, yeah, Kenny Robertson. He is a former wrestler, like collegiate wrestler, but he's also got like very good. He's also a very good grappler, just kind of a weird, awkward grappler. He hit one of the most memorable submissions that I can remember seeing in the UFC, the Suloev stretch, where he gets a knee bar from the dude's back. He's got back mount, and he ended up kind of pulling the dude's leg up with his arms and getting a knee bar that way. It was really, really strange. Never saw it before. Very cool submission. So he's definitely an experienced grappler in his own right. So I think the ground game is going to be kind of just like straight up grappling. I think it's going to be largely a wash. But Robertson does have the wrestling background to kind of fall back on, which will allow him to either keep the fight standing or end up in top position if the fight does go to the ground. And I think he will have kind of an advantage in the striking as well, because he's so weird and awkward and kind of like fights out of this like goofy looking crouch and like just very, very hard fighter to kind of train for. I think that he's going to make Carnero gun shy on the feet. So I think that Robertson will have kind of a slight advantage on the feet and a slight advantage in the wrestling department. And so I like him to take a decision here.
That's the quickest analysis you've ever given.
Speed round, baby.
Yeah, love it. All right. Carnero comes in at -105. Robertson's -125. DraftKings, Carnero is 10-1, and Kenny Robertson is 9-3.
All right, so yeah, give me some Robertson there, probably in cash. You're getting a slight favorite there for underdog money. I don't know that I see a finish here, but potentially I could see Robertson getting it done. So maybe a sprinkling in GBPs, especially considering his value. The over-under is at 2.5 rounds. It's at -150, so it's not overwhelmingly favored to go the distance. So potential finish there. Let me see. Finish props. Yeah, Robertson has the better finish prop at +248 to Carnero's 330 +330. But yeah, so give me Robertson in cash here in this one, I think, for the most part.
All right, I love it. Is it cool if we jump to Uriah Hall and Brunson? Because I'm going to have to jet after this.
All right, go for it.
Thanks, brother. All right, Hall versus Brunson. Really excited for this fight. Hall's talking a bunch of trash. I'm a big fan of Derek Brunson. Caught wind of him when he was in the underground scene, and he gave me a shout-out on Twitter. So he's my dude for life.
What a mark.
Yeah, total. So I'm going to go with Brunson to win this fight. I watched Brunson's most recent fight with Lorenz Larkin, and I really saw all I needed to. I think it kind of mirrors this fight. Similar to Larkin, Hall is an elite striker. He's got big power, but Brunson kind of neutralized that attack. Brunson, on the feet, he's got good footwork. He darts in and out. He's going to work from the outside and time Hall strikes for the takedown. Lorenz Larkin was trying to strike with him, and he would time his takedowns and get in close, pin him up against the cage. He wants to close the distance and turn this fight into a grappling affair. Everybody knows he's an all-American wrestler. That's his bread and butter. He's suffocating up against the cage. He has underrated submission skills, in my opinion. I wouldn't be shocked if he wins this fight by decision or by submission. Uriah Hall, elite striker. He's lightning fast. He's got big, big power. He does struggle with fighters who pressure him, and Brunson likes to push the pace and get in people's face. Uriah Hall is so frustrating to me. His consistency is up and down, up and down. This guy has the potential to be unbelievable, but he just can't string it together fight after fight. He throws his fancy spinning attacks. Everybody's seen him. He's seen that famous knockout. He has finishing power in his hands and feet. His takedown defense is limited, and he doesn't offer a whole ton on the ground. Gegard Mousasi took him to the ground fairly easily and suffocated him on top, so I envision Brunson doing that. Yeah, I'm going to go with Brunson in this one. I think he's going to time his strikes, get the fight to the ground, overwhelm him on his back. And he's not going to fare very well against the All-American Brunson on the mat. So Brunson via decision seems likely, but don't be shocked if we see a second or third round submission. I'm just not confident in Uriah Hall.
Okay, interesting take there. The Brunson fight was a little while ago, and since then he's kind of turned it. The Larkin fight has been a little while ago, and since then Brunson has turned into like sort of a power puncher. He used to be kind of a grinder. It's super dark in here. I'll try to fix that, but I'm with it. I could see him trying to neutralize Hall's dangerous but kind of unpredictable attack with his wrestling. So here we go on the odds. Hall is a plus 190 dog to Derek Brunson's 210 minus 210 favorite, and on DraftKings, that's sort of you're getting a slight value on Brunson, who comes in at 10,000 even, and Hall is at 9,400.
Give me Brunson in this one. Cash games, GPPs. I like him in both.
Interesting. Hall's dynamism might scare me off of Brunson in cash. I mean, you saw what he did to get. I mean, you remember what he did to Gegard Mousasi, the jumping, spinning back kick to the flying knee finish. It was just bananas. Like
it was. I watched that this afternoon.
Yeah. So stuff like that would kind of scare me off of any opponent of his in cash for the most part. But yeah, I'm with Brunson in GBPs. I think that he's capable of that finish. Potentially in cash as well, if he like really goes with that wrestling heavy attack. That could be his thing. So you peacing out, or you can hang around for a couple minutes? What's the deal?
Yeah, I got to bounce, guys. Josh will take it from here. Got 2 more fights left. We'll get to our game. We'll recap the game picks next time. But good luck to everybody. And Josh, you're in good hands with Josh from here. So Stillman, we'll talk.
All right, man.
See ya.
Thanks for hanging in there with me despite the technical difficulties earlier.
No problem, dude. We got a quality product. We got to get it out there.
Absolutely.
Later.
Peace. All right, so with me, let me fix this light real quick. Let me turn on one light. Be right back. Hang on. Sorry. If you're watching on YouTube now that you're stuck looking at me, I didn't want you to see half light, half dark. All right, so these last 2 fights, we got Rick Glenn versus Evan Dunham. And Glenn is the former World Series of Fighting featherweight champion, making his UFC debut on short notice. And since losing so he beat Georgi Karakanyan for the who now fights in Bellator, just got that impressive victory over Bubba Jenkins. So Glenn beat him to take the World Series of Fighting featherweight title, but lost it in his first defense to Lance Palmer. And since then, he won 1 more fight in World Series of Fighting, and then lost. And then won 2 more fights on the regional circuit after leaving World Series of Fighting, and now makes his UFC debut on short notice. So the fact that he didn't come to the UFC immediately after leaving World Series of Fighting, I think, is a little bit telling. He's obviously talented, but not, despite being a former champion in another major organization, I don't think is ultra elite by any stretch. I don't think that he could ascend to the same level that he was in World Series of Fighting, even in Bellator, who has a pretty strong featherweight division. And so coming in on short notice against a veteran, like mid to upper level lightweight, who's been around the UFC for a long, long time, and Evan Dunham, I just don't see this going well for Glenn at all. Glenn has, he's a striker, trains out of Rufus Sport. He's kind of upright, southpaw, long and lanky. He's he's like very thin, but very tall for featherweight. He throws lots of straight punches to kind of like help accentuate that like body style for the division. But he doesn't look particularly fast. He looks pretty hittable. He's got questionable takedown defense, and he's a decent grappler, but and he's got murderous ground and pound from the top. But there's just no way that I think he can gain top position for any length of time against Dunham, who is a good wrestler, a very, very good grappler. I think he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and an underrated striker. So I think this is Dunham's fight going away. I just don't see him. I don't see Glenn having really any advantage in pretty much any phase. He's getting a hard. Dunham was supposed to face Abel Trujillo, who would be a completely different stylistic matchup for him. But he's getting a much softer touch here in Glenn, who, as I guess is typical a lot of the time for somebody coming on short notice making their UFC debut, they have a pretty tough fight on their hands. So let me see what my ultimate pick here was. I'm picking Dunham to take out Glenn by second round stoppage, either via ground and pound or by submission. I think just Dunham's going to be too much everywhere for the UFC newcomer, despite his potential talent as a former champion in another major organization. So looking at odds, Dunham is the minus 330 favorite, and Rick Glenn comes back as the plus 300 underdog, so no surprise there. On DraftKings, do we have any sort of value here? Dunham is at 10,700, and Glenn comes in at 8,700. So for that price and those odds, I would be comfortable taking Dunham pretty much in any format. I think he makes a good cash play. Comfortable favorite. He isn't completely outrageously priced. He's not over 11K or anything like that. And I see a finish here. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds, and the over is at minus 172 right now. And Dunham has an inside distance prop at minus 250, which isn't the best, especially for a pretty heavy favorite. But again, I would not be surprised. So I would consider him in tournaments or in cash games. I think that he'll be locked into a lot of my tournament lineups. Let me see. In terms of, I just want to kind of see how the salary shakes out here. Who's most expensive? So far we have Cecilia as the most expensive. Perez. So Cecilia is 11.2. Perez is 11,000. Brown's 10.9, and Dunham is 10.7. And Brown and Muhammad are the biggest favorites on the card, minus 470. So you're getting big time value on Muhammad for sure, as he's only 10,200. And so he's another dude who will probably be locked into a lot of my lineups, despite Drew's liking for Montano in that fight. I mean, the odds just kind of dictate that you got to have some shares of Muhammad. But I like Dunham in a lot of fights as well, or a lot of lineups as well. Wife character getting sassy over here. Kind of interrupting our podcast. That's okay. It's fine, wife character. All right, last fight of the night. The main event between Poirier and Dustin Poirier and Michael Johnson. So this is kind of a tough fight for me to call because I'm a really big Poirier fan, and Johnson is, despite being on a 2-fight losing streak, I think that's kind of the weird thing about this fight is that Poirier, since moving up to featherweight, since moving up to lightweight, has smashed people. He's got 4 wins, 3 by stoppage, just coming off of a pretty big win over Joseph Duffy, while Johnson has lost 2 straight to a contentious decision, split decision to Beneil Dariush, and then his competitive but ultimately clear loss to Nate Diaz in his last fight. So it's kind of weird that these guys are being matched up. Usually UFC likes to put winners against winners and losers against losers, and they're not doing that at all here. But this makes for an interesting fight because I think that the two guys kind of play into one another's styles a good bit. Poirier really likes to push forward behind his power, and Johnson is comfortable countering and is comfortable throwing down in the pocket, but he really, I think, likes or is best at working kind of at long range. And that's ultimately why I'm going to end up picking Poirier here, because I just don't think that he's going to be giving Johnson the space that he likes to work. Johnson might be the better wrestler, but I don't think that he's going to be able to get Poirier down for any length of time. Poirier did show some good wrestling in his last fight against Joseph Duffy. But again, I don't think that he's going to be able to really hold down Johnson, who's a pretty good wrestler. In a grappling match, if it does happen to go to the floor, I favor Poirier. And I think he's got bigger power. He might not be as clean, especially from the outside, but banging in the pocket where I think this fight is going to kind of end up taking place, fairly often. You got to give the advantage to Poirier, who just hits like a truck and has improved defense. Johnson is very, very durable, having never been knocked out before. So that's sort of, I don't know, the X factor here. Like, can he drag the fight into the later rounds? He's got very, very good gas tank, while Poirier is kind of known for gassing later in his fights. Anyway, he pushes such a frenetic pace that can often happen. But ultimately, I think that Poirier is the first. He kind of continues his just really dominant streak at lightweight, takes another step forward toward a title shot, and he puts away Johnson in the middle rounds of this one. But it's a very, very, very good fight. Both Drew and I are very, very busy, obviously, with work. We're doing this at 7:30 on a Friday evening instead of getting this out on a Wednesday or Thursday. But I really, really want to do this. We really want to do this one because of this fight. It's an excellent, excellent fight of the year candidate. Wanted to make sure we got this one in. So looking at that, Poirier is a -170 favorite, according to Vegas, and Johnson comes back as +160. The over-under is at 2.5 rounds, and the over is at -127. So this one going the full 5 would be surprising. It would definitely be exciting. I would almost root for that, because a 5-round fight between these two would be amazing. Looking at DraftKings, Poirier is at 10,400 and Johnson is at 9,000. This is a fight where I think you could definitely stack it in cash. High output, even with a chance of a finish from really either guy. I think even the loser is going to get you solid points here, and the winner is going to get you 100 plus. Has that potential. Even if the fight goes into the middle rounds, I think the output is going to be there. So this is a fight that I will probably end up stacking in cash a good bit. But I also like Poirier in tournaments, obviously, for 10,400. And even Johnson at 9,000. He's very cheap. The fight is pretty close. I mean, he's not an overwhelming underdog. He's not even 2-1. And he's got his own avenues to victory here. He could use his wrestling. If he can sort of outfight and frustrate Poirier, I think that he would end up having the cardio advantage in the later rounds, and so he could like pour it on there. I think if the fight goes the distance, Johnson is definitely going to be paying off that $9,000 price tag, win or lose. So I like both of those guys here. So no, that pretty much wraps it up, I think. Obviously, since Drew had to bounce early, we could not give you our bonus picks this card for Lock of the Night, Fight of the Night, and Stunner of the Night. I'm guessing Drew Stunner would have had something to do with Montano beating Bilal Muhammad, which would be truly stunning to me in any case. I don't know that I have his Stunner just offhand, given that he, like I said, is jetted. So won't go into any more detail there. But thank you. If you are listening to this, then like we said off the top, you are truly dedicated, because we're getting this out basically 24 hours before the event. So thank you for listening. Keep on listening. Keep on subscribing, telling your friends, all that good stuff. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Stonewall MMA, and my partner Drew is at Houdini, WHODEANY 16. On Twitter, you can also follow the podcast at Daily Fantasy KO. If you ever have any questions that you'd like us to answer, we're down with fan engagement wherever we can get it. So if you can, if you have a question, want to email, have thoughts, think we're or have not positive criticism, constructive criticism, we'll definitely be open to listening to that. We're trying to improve here. So you can also email us at dailyfantasyknockout@gmail.com. You can be looking out if you are reading my blogs, my weekly blogs on rotogrinders.com. You can find those by going to rotogrinders.com, doing an opponent search for JDS86. My blog is also called Daily Fantasy Knockout. You can also find it by going to the blogs MMA section there. You can also check out my work at lowkickmma.com. I put out things there periodically, pretty much every week on Fight Night, and a couple times, hopefully, midweek, so you can find my work there. But again, thank you guys for listening. Tell your friends, subscribe, give us a positive rating, help us grow. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you again. For Drew, I'm Josh. Peace.